and welcome to the closing session of CIFA 2025. It's time to close the conference, but it's also time for a bit of a treat. And we're really so pleased that Professor John Schofield, has agreed to come and speak about his book, Wicked Problems for Archaeologists. And we also have, this afternoon, I can move it on, thoughts inspired by some of the themes in the book by 4 other speakers who you probably recognize. It's also time for us to have a bit of a think, for all of us, to think about what we'll have heard here this afternoon and what we've heard over the last 2 days about what the future in archaeology might look like, and importantly, what action we're going to have to take to get us there, to get to our ideal place in the future. And to do that, we're going to have to be quite full and frank about where we are now. So some of what we're going to be discussing this afternoon will be challenging, and it might make you feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. It's good, in fact. But this is where we're coming from. And so I hope that in your listening and when we talk later, you can bear these values in mind too. So to keep the thought process flowing, we're not going to stop between the speakers. By all means, show your appreciation. But each speaker is going to introduce the next, and then I'm going to come back to you at the end for a conversation. So without further ado, first up, it's Neil.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andrea. I have to say I've got the really easy part of this gig because I've been asked to introduce more formally John. I've actually known John for nearly 30 years now. Yes, unfortunately, that's the last century we actually met him. And I met him, I have very vivid memories of first meeting John. It was actually on Spurn Point at the very end of Holderness. I had actually just started working for the CBA in my first iteration, and I was a research assistant on the 20th century fortifications in the UK project. And we were basically on Spurn Point to look at some concrete. Unfortunately, this has given me a lifelong love of concrete and bizarre humps and bumps. But I can vividly remember us, whilst climbing over all of this concrete, slightly lamenting the fact that erosion had started to eat away at the military railway that linked the end of Spurn Point to the rest of Holderness, and having this conversation about, loss of heritage and everything. And now I can't help reflecting how different that conversation would have been with the conversation that we all hold around climate change. Because, of course, the really interesting thing about Spurn Point is it has always eroded. It's always moved. It is actually made from sand that erodes from further up the coast of Holderness, is washed down, and then accumulates in this place at the end of the Humber. And every so often, it literally used to be blown away, and then it would recreate itself. So Spurn Point is this thing that comes and goes. And it only became fixed when the military built the railway in order to get to the defences they built at the end. Okay, and I think now if we went back there and actually looked at that, we would have a completely different conversation about how should we be valuing the transience of Spurn Point. And in many ways, for me, that's what John's book is about. It's about getting us to look at things differently. It's about redefining our perspectives. And really, when I look at it in the round, wicked problems, they're not actually about problems, they're actually about opportunities. Opportunities for archaeologists. We have a role to be involved in these discussions, in these debates, in shaping the things we might actually do about them. And actually we need to be doing that really proactively and really confidently.